Ambassador Woolsey, thanks so much for being with us today.
Good to be with you, John.
All right, before we get to Iran and Saudi Arabia, I wanted to get your reaction to what happened in Paris on the one-year anniversary of those Charlie Hebdo attacks. Do you think there is a connection, based on what you know at this point, to today's date?
Yes, and not uniquely the Charlie Hebdo date, but either dates that something from the terrorists' point of view good happened, or a date something bad happened, such as the beginning of the American Revolution in 1775. They like anniversaries. They like to focus on anniversaries, and they think if they hit you on an anniversary of something they've done that they like killing all those poor French journalists at Charlie Hebdo, that they are sort of getting in your face, and they like to do that. And they are kind of anniversary focused. It's not always the case that that's when they do bad stuff, but sometimes it is.
That would play into their whole story, their narrative, and the message that they try to sell to future recruits, perhaps. Now, let's talk about Iran and Saudi Arabia. Tension, of course, continues to mount, and now Iran has accused the Saudis of bombing the Iranian embassy in Yemen. Of course, these tensions are not new, but in your opinion, is this the closest thing we've seen to a full-blown Sunni-Shia war across this region?
Well, this war is somewhere between 13 and 14 centuries old. It's been going for a long time, long before we were a country, and it'll be going for a long time in the future, I think. I think that Iran is ginning itself up with the street demonstrations and then says, who, us? Encourage street demonstrations and the burning of the Saudi embassy? Oh, my goodness, no. You can be absolutely certain that they are lying. They are trying to get things ginned up in order to further their objective of dominating the Middle East. And the Saudis, I think, are basically...
It does appear, though, that the Saudis
defensive.
have given them a window to do this by executing this Shia cleric inside.
Well, they may have, but I think the Iranians were sitting there waiting. And I think that the Saudis mainly are worried, especially about the takeover of Yemen and the Houthis. The Houthis have been firing Scuds into Saudi Arabia, killed a Saudi general not long ago. I think the main problem that underlies all this, whatever the tactical moves here and there by one party or the other, is Iran's ambition to dominate the entire Middle East, and ISIS's ambition to dominate the entire Middle East. There are going to be quite a few clashes, and sometimes they'll both come after us.
Clearly, the Iranians feel emboldened by the new attention they're getting from the Obama administration. One last topic we want to talk about, Ambassador. Officials in Germany, of course, are investigating a series of widespread sexual assaults, and it's been reported that some of the suspects are Syrian migrants. In fact, there is a report today from the Daily Mail where one of the suspects said, quote, "I am a Syrian. I must be handled in a friendly manner. Miss Merkel invited me here." What lessons should the U.S. take away from this as we continue to look at the ongoing Syrian refugee situation? Some of them are coming to the United States.
Well, I think we ought to be very cautious and very thorough in our background checks and investigations, much more so than any part of the U.S. government does now. I think things got off generally on a wrong foot some years ago when Senators Kennedy and Hart pushed the idea that the main determinant of whether someone got into the United States or not, quite apart from whether they were a war refugee, but generally speaking, it's their relationship, like a brother-in-law, let's say, to an individual who is already in the United States, especially a citizen. Whereas the decision criterion almost certainly, I think, ought to be excellence of the person who wants to come to the U.S., excellence of his performance economically, in human rights terms, his ability to, his education. It ought to be people who can get right to work in Silicon Valley and help us dominate the world's electronics. And that's not the kind of people that are generally favored in immigration by our laws now. it's the brother or brother-in-law of somebody who may be an American, but also may be a pretty dicey guy.
A cautionary tale for sure. Ambassador Woolsey, thanks for joining us. And also, you can catch Ambassador Woolsey again tonight at Newsmax Prime at 8 p.m. Eastern. He'll be discussing the deteriorating situation in Libya. Of course, the truck bomb killed 60 people there today. He'll also talk about the president's insistence on closing Gitmo. Look forward to that as well. Ambassador Woolsey, thanks for